Welcome to DJN TV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Good evening to Camping Chat. That's right, your favorite show is now Camping Chat because Ben Stowe is the great camping guide in Minnesota.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I did go camping this weekend, and I'm perpetually impressed at the skills that I learned in Boy Scouts because I always feel like I'm showing off. And two of my friends that were there both said they were kicked out of Boy Scouts, which I don't know why. Well, maybe I do know why. But anyway, you know, I tell you what, I make a mean cobbler. It turned out great. I'm really happy with how that cobbler turned out.
It looked really good. I was surprised. I was like, I wonder who made that for him.
Well, let's be honest. If you're out in the woods long enough, pretty much anything tastes good, you know.
That is true. There's like camping food and how it tastes. And it's like some people are like, oh, yeah, that's almost good enough for I'd eat it at home. But camping, though.
You know, I like percolator coffee. You know, it's just a rare treat. There's something about, you know, wood smoke. Anyway, one of the guys said, and this campsite, I think we talked about this on a previous show maybe, but this campsite is very, very remote. You have to hike. We think we finally figured out it's 4 miles that you have to get through the woods. And then you have to put in canoes and paddle to the campsite. 'Cause it's, you know, it's not, you can't get there from the shore around. You have to go through the lake or across the lake. So it's very, very remote. If you don't bring it in, you don't have it. Anyway, my wife's family's had this campsite for generations, and they do leave some cast iron pans and things out there. So, you know, anyway, long and short of it, one of the guys was cooking, and the other, you know, he says, "How is it?" The other guy said, "Well, it tastes like it was cooked on a open fire in a dirty pan." And we all said, "Yeah, so it's good. It's great.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It'll be awesome."
And it was. We had a great time. Just what I needed to recharge for the week.
Northern Minnesota this time of year with mosquitoes, that big or that big?
So here's the plus. It's been a little bit cool up here. It got down in the 40s at night. So the mosquitoes made a very committed run, but then they were gone pretty quick. By 9 o'clock, they were gone. It was too cold. So they got what they could. I mean, you know, they took – I have a picture of my son. I don't know if he had a reaction or what.
Oh, no.
I mean, it looks bad. I don't even want to show it on you know, national TV here. Yeah. But the mosquito, I've never seen a person react to mosquitoes like that. I felt really bad for him. You know, it's bad if I felt bad for him.
Yeah, exactly. Usually with the kids, it's like,
yeah, he's a teenage boy. Exactly. Suck it up, cupcake. You know. Yeah. But no, I was like, oh my gosh, son. Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Hope you don't go into anaphylactic shock or something because I can't paddle much faster.
We're got to go across the lake and then fight.
And then 4 miles through the woods and then 40 miles to the nearest hospital. I'm like, you're a goner, son. I'm sorry. But he was fine. He turned out okay.
Toughed it out. So tonight's topic, we're going to dig into a little bit the prep that is needed to go into a large sound reinforcement job. Ben, as a lot of you know, does sound for national touring acts that come through the upper Midwest. That requires more than just 2 speakers on a stick.
It does. And there's 2 ways that you can think about this. You know, as you said, much of the work that I do is regional, and that's partly because I'm already on the road too much as it is, but I also tour. And it's a very different perspective. And honestly, I think every local crew should tour and every tour person should be local crew because it really gives you an understanding of the other side. And to clarify some of those terms, what I mean is even on the biggest tours, there's always a reliance on local crew because you just can't take hundreds of people on buses. That's impractical. So you're relying on, you know, local stagehands, local loaders, local riggers, that sort of thing. And there's really, I think, a sense of understanding when you are in both camps. So that's a really good way to think about our prep. If you're thinking about prep from a local standpoint, some of the really important things are going to be, number one, what's needed, you know, what's in the rider. Mm-hmm. And a rider, for those who don't know, is a document that really covers everything. Well, it should, you know, even catering, hospitality, that sort of thing. We don't really care about that stuff. We only care about the technical side of it, which is going to tell us, you know, do they need backline? What instruments do they need? What lighting do they need? Where is it supposed to be? There's usually very specific drawings. You know, so that the show looks consistent from city to city, even if all the gear is not being carried with. It covers really all of those things so that you have a good understanding of what the band's needs are and you can meet that. At the same time, on the other side of the camp, from the tour side, maybe I'm the guy that's writing the rider, and I'm sending it out to the venues, and I'm sending it out to the promoters, and I'm sending it out to the local crew and local production to say, this is what I need.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we do what's called an advance, which really translates well to what DJs and things should be doing. Maybe not necessarily some of the things, but many of it. In an advance, it's basically a get to know you conversation, and you're going to cover some really important things like what time. And there's a lot of different people that are involved in the time here. What time do I need forklift operators? What time do I need riggers? What time do I need stagehands? What time do I need an electrician? What time do we want breakfast? That's very important to me. Catering is a very important part of the rider.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I want to know I'm going to, because if you're on a bus all night, you get off the bus, first thing you want to do is eat and have time to eat before it's time to go to work. That sort of thing. Anyway, and then there's, other call times for spotlight operators and that sort of thing. And then what about the load out? But other parts of the advance are really important, like how much weight do I have to hang from your ceiling? Can I hang it? Can your grid support the weight? How much weight do I need to bring in your back door? How big is your door? Do you have a loading dock? How many trucks do I have? Do you have place to park the trucks? Do you have a place to park the bus? Do you have shore power so we don't have to run our generators on the bus? All these kinds of questions. And how I could see that correlating to a DJ very similarly is, what time can I get in? How big is your door? Will my stuff fit? I have some fun pictures I put together for some of this stuff.
Excellent.
Actually, let me just find the will it fit picture right now, because I happen to know that this guy is an avid watcher of our show and a very good friend of mine. And I'm super pleased that he has come to help me at some festivals. So here we have the best side of Neil Mckinney. Look at that backside. Radio. Look at that radio. So anyway, that is my very good friend, Neil Mckinney, who came from Atlanta. This festival was in North Dakota. And you can see that is one cart, one of 4 carts of subwoofers.
Sure.
Now, that's not going to fit through a standard door.
Not so much. No.
No. And also, if you try to move it on a wimpy ramp, it and you are going to go to the ground.
So what's the weight on those subs a piece, ballpark?
That cart, I think, is about 960, which is another really good point. Truck manifest. How heavy is your truck? If you have all these things going in the truck, how heavy is it? Why is that important? Well, if your truck driver hits a weigh station and gets a ticket, he's going to be mad. So, you got to know, Anyway, I got a few fun pictures. I feel like a question there, but I got a few fun pictures we can pop up here, and we can sort of talk through some of these things.
Well, so the question you mentioned, the advanced conversation that you're referring to, who's typically in on that conversation?
There's usually a couple of advances. When we're doing regional stuff, in almost all cases, I'm in the conversation, or one of my lead guys who is going to, let's say the tour has a production manager. And if that's me, then obviously I'm having that conversation. But if I'm the guy talking to the production manager, then, it's, again, that get to know you. Usually there are different people that are involved with different parts, hospitality, catering, that sort of thing. And again, there's a lot of variation in the way shows are done. Some tours are carrying complete, which basically means they're carrying everything in their trucks. Some tours are what they call fly dates, where they are carrying nothing. The show that I just did last week, the shows plural, they flew in with guitars and drumsticks, and that was it. Everything else, including the drums and everything else, was provided by us. And then everything else is something in between.
Sure.
There's some combination. We're carrying this, we're carrying that. But those are basically the decision makers are involved in the advance. And usually the fewer people, the better. It's not a committee process.
Sure.
Just get it done.
Yeah.
Stagehands should rule the world. I think if stagehands were running this, we'd already have a vaccine. I'll tell you that right now.
You're not going to get political, are you?
No, that is not a political statement. That is a statement that stagehands know how to get things done.
Know how to get things done.
If it is, I tell you what, if it is a political statement, it's that stagehands are far more effective than politicians. And you can quote me on that. Anybody watching disagrees, just put it in the comments.
They're working on some of the things here. Just the shot of the picture, and then people were like, "Oh, I missed speakers."
Yeah, I know. I feel well. So here's a few more pictures. Let's have some fun pictures. Trucks. The most trucks I've ever had on a tour were 26, and most arenas only have 2 or 3 loading docks. This was not that tour, but again, you start thinking about it. Every one of these trucks has to be unloaded and it has to be loaded. So
how is that managed now? Because you've got half a dozen trucks, whatever you've got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are things all labeled that this is box A and truck B, or what? How do they do that?
So let me tell you a system I devised, and I will say that this has been done long before me. I will say that when the United States Army understood that they were going to war in World War II, they called Barnum and Bailey, and they said, we need to figure out how to get a lot of stuff overseas really quick. Moral of the story, our industry has been moving gear better than anybody. Like I said, it's not political, it's just a fact. Mm-hmm. Longer and better than anybody. So long before I was born, our industry had this figured out. But there's always a way to modify or perfect a system. And so I'll show you a system that I did for one of my tours. But first, I got to show you, this just came in. I'm going to see if I can figure this out here, John. Mm-hmm. So let's see here. I just got this picture from...
hasn't popped up yet.
Nope. I'm sorry. I'm gotta get to one more screen here.
Oh, okay. You're bringing the phone in.
Yeah, there you go. Our crew got some stuff lit up on the NLFX warehouse. This is a side that we're in the industrial park. There's really no beautiful side, but this is the side that faces the highway. So we wanted to get the most out of that. So of course today is the red alert day for We Make Events.
Excellent.
Yeah, just wanted to share that real quick. There'll be some better shots of the length and the loading docks and that sort of thing. But anyway, that literally came in while I was talking to you, and I just wanted to brag on my crew because by the way, I just posted this on Facebook. It rained something fierce here a little bit ago, and so they're out there in the mud and the rain setting these lights. And I said, hey, it kind of reminds you of a festival, doesn't it? It's just like being back to work. Let's go slog around in the mud and set up lights. All right, so I'm going to show you something that I did for a tour. And in this case, we were pulling a trailer behind a bus.
Okay.
And everything we had to fit under the bus or in that trailer. And then whatever else we needed was provided locally. Again, not uncommon at all. But there's a lot of stuff here. And you can see on the screen, this essentially roughly represents the shape of everything on the tour.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so I had to figure out how to make this fit in a trailer, which, as you can see, I did, with not very much room to spare.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next trick, though, is it has to get in the trailer. So, we were using a 3D modeling program on a computer to figure this out. You can't put boxes in through the side of the trailer. That's not realistic. You can do it on a computer, but you can't in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So everything had to be brought in through the back door, and it had to be done in a way so that it could be duplicated. So we created these 6 panes to show the stages of loading for gear as it would come in the door. And then from there, I developed a system so that on the radios, we could call out, the numbers of cases that we wanted. And I'll show you that in a second. And I've used that successfully several times. Here you can see the load in the back of the trailer, and you can see it is about perfection. It is about as snug as you can get. And if you look on the towers, you'll see a couple labels there. Every piece of gear had a label that looked like this. And basically, the system is twofold. There's an out and an in.
Okay.
The out is the bottom, which is the USL, upstage left. And by the way, I printed out a piece of paper which had 4 colored squares on it. It kind of looked like a Microsoft logo. And each corner then said USL, DSL, USR, DSR, upstage, downstage, left, right.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked out and I taped that in the middle of the stage so that it couldn't get kicked and turned or anything. Because this was a Christian tour, which I love, by the way, because you're working with a lot of people who do sound at their church, that sort of thing. They're usually not professional stagehands.
Okay.
They don't know upstage right, downstage left, whatever. They don't really understand a lot of that terminology. They don't get to work with tours on a regular basis, but they're super excited to be there, which I love. I love sharing that passion with them. I think one of our viewers actually met me on one of these tour stops, by the way. So good folks. But anyway, I thought, I'm going to make this really simple for them. So here's where those pieces of gear go, so that as things come in the door, the stage does not become one giant pile. Speed is everything.
Sure.
Everything kind of gets moved to a corner, and then there's a fifth place, which was purple, FOH, front of house. That case just goes all the way out to front of house. Lighting desk, mixing board, that stuff just goes right out to front of house. Don't even put it on my stage. Don't clutter up my stage. So that was the load in. And then the load out was the number. And what that first number represents is that it is in the first of the 6 squares that we looked at.
Okay.
And it is the fourth case. So I could have my loaders bring in stuff from the stage, say, bring me all the number ones, and those would be then prepped and say, have the number 2s ready to come out next. You could start staging number 3s inside. And DJs talk about their load in, load out times. I think we got down to where we were tearing down this entire tour, sound, light, video, instruments, everything in like an hour. We were done and in the showers. And
wow.
Yeah. And we're talking a pretty substantial amount of gear here relative to a DJ show. Mm-hmm. And I think DJs would be stunned. They go, wow, you guys got all that tore down in an hour. Yes. 2 reasons. One, everything was built completely for speed. Wires were pre-loomed, that sort of thing. And 2, it had a system. And 3, of course, the advance had a lot to do with it. Another really important part of the advance is electricity. Sometimes when you're doing like these Christian tours, maybe you're playing a big church. It might be a church that seats, 4,000 people, which is not small, but maybe they don't have 3-phase power, and that's what your system needs. So you got to have those conversations ahead of time. They might need to bring in a big generator and park it out back.
Just so you can power everything. Wow. So you've got your system for loading the trucks. You've got your system for the cases coming out. How do you manage what's in each case so you know where it is and it can get back to that spot when the time comes?
Boy, that is a really important question because in the DJ world, most venues are within driving distance. Certainly some are less convenient than others. But if you forgot something, you could probably go back and get it. Maybe the next day, or that might really jam you up if you had 2 shows in a row. But not necessarily completely insurmountable. Some cases it might be, but not always. Of course, I DJ'd for 15 years and I probably forgot things more than once. On tour, you might be a 10-hour drive away the next day and you only have 2 or 3 hours to get ready. By the time you figure out it's missing, it's too late. So yeah, that system I think is just comes down to awareness and repetition, and then a careful walk when everything's done. Everybody's kind of got their area though, like there's a head rigger, a head audio guy, head video guy, head lighting guy, and they've got people working underneath them, and everybody's just kind of got a system, and you just sort of keep an eye out and you look out for each other. I can happily say I don't think we ever left anything on tour anywhere. Yeah, so.
Wow.
Again, it's in your mind that if you do, you're in really big trouble the next day. I mean, really big trouble. Let me see what else I got just for fun.
Yeah.
So rigging, we mentioned weight. So let's do some rigging pictures here. Here's one. Now this one doesn't show weights or motor points, but this shows a structural drawing of a building relative to where the trusses go in green. So at least you begin to have some understanding what's going to be necessary. Now here's some other pictures we could talk about. Let's do that. Sorry, anticlimactic pause. I need a producer or somebody to actually just move stuff. I need somebody to move things on the screen as fast as my mouth. So first thing we see are these marks on the stage. And you'll notice there's circles and there's triangles, and then there's some little like V-shaped things, same things with numbers. Those identify what type of motor, what type of steel, and where it's going to go. It basically gives the rigger a target to hit from the air. So you have, down riggers working on preparing this stuff on the ground, and then up riggers on the beams that are going to pull this stuff up and set the points. And it really should be right, or they're going to be cranky when it gets up there. I know I do a lot of up rigging, as you know from previous shows. And so here now you can see those points have been set in the ceiling. Every place that you see a piece of burlap is a point. And you'll notice some of the V's of cables. Well, that matches up with the V's of chalk we saw. Those bridles are to help land a point in a specific place. If the truss is not directly below a beam, which it rarely is, how do you get it exactly where you want it? And there's a series of math involved there. So
Ben, as we're looking at this now, are there we go. The speakers, they're flying speakers. Are you flying subwoofers in this configuration? Are those just the mid and high type of cabinets?
Sometimes sometimes your subs are flown. Many times it's just tops. But sometimes subs are flown, sometimes subs are not flown.
So is there a noticeable difference if you fly them as opposed to have them on the ground? Specifically, we've talked about when they can kind of couple with the ground, you seem to get more of a bass response.
Yeah, you do. But the amount of firepower we're bringing in, we're not really that worried about the coupling. When subs are flown, a lot of times it can be time aligned better. It can be a little bit smoother coverage. Some definite advantages to flying, but there's some definite advantages to keeping them on the ground too. Again, speed being one. And certainly you can make it sound good, from the ground. So one of my guys must be watching the show. He's sending me rigging videos here. So sorry, Nate, I'm not going to put that video up till I watch it. I don't trust you. He is fantastic. This guy, he is just super bright, and I'm so glad to have him on our team. Very, just a guy that I've toured with him. In fact, I've been on a bus with him, and that's when you really see somebody's true colors. So yeah, definitely a great guy. Anyway, pros and cons. For DJs, I don't think I'd be worried about trying to fly subs.
Right.
I think the ground is the way to go.
Yeah, just kind of curious because I've wondered that because you don't have a fixed point, and if just the mass of the column of speakers will reduce the movement that you would get from subwoofers.
Yeah, there's so much firepower involved here that we're not that worried. Let me show you something else. This is called a stage plot. And this is what we would send if we were touring, or what we would get from a tour if we were local, again, depending on which side of the equation you're on. And you can see why it would be super useful. You may have to kill the lower third, though, because this thing is really kind of a full screen thing. So here you can see it shows where everything goes on the stage. And then this one has kind of a twofer, shows the input list on the bottom as well. So shows where everything goes. So again, that can be prepared, particularly again, if the band is flying in, they can just walk in the room. They don't have to bring nothing, It's all set up. Why would they be there to watch you set up? They don't need to do that. Here's another example. We looked at that. That's an input list. Let's look at another input list. And again, this is just to identify where does everything go. Not in terms of placement on the stage now, but just so that local people can patch it and there's some consistency. So here we can see an input list for a band, and you can see that in this case there are 56 inputs being used, but the band has developed some subsnakes. Here we can see that there are brown subsnakes, red subsnakes, blue, orange, and again, that's a product of speed. Everything is pre-wired and ready to go really fast. By the way, shameless plug, but many DJs have ordered custom panels from us. Many DJs have ordered custom cables and custom looms.
Yep.
And that's where this stuff comes from. We're all about helping you speed up your setup and tear down, because believe me, we know how to get stuff in and out quick. So that's where that stuff comes from. Anyway, kind of cool, I think, to see, people might say, what in the world do you ever use 56 channels for? Well, now you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh, let's see what else I got. Oh, well, this one's kind of fun. And you'll note, I'm sorry, I had to redact a lot of things. You'll notice black squares all over these things because sometimes there are confidential things like artists' phone numbers and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that would be a bad.
Yeah, just confidential things that you want to not share with the world. So here we can see an arena layout, basically, shows us that, okay, this stage is 40 feet deep by 60 feet wide by 4 feet tall. And our mix platform is going to be 95 feet back from the stage, and it's going to be a 24 by 16. Well, the mix area, I should say, because more often than not, as a sound guy, I want to be on the ground. I want to be on the ground because that's where the seats are in that area. And then the lighting guy will be on a riser behind me.
Okay.
So they can see over me because they need to see and I need to hear. And that works out pretty good. But anyway, these dotted lines here that you see coming off the diagonally from the stage, those are what we call cell lines. And that tells us where the audience is sitting and where it's not sitting. In other words, people sitting in section W, I don't really care about covering you with sound. They're not supposed to sell those seats.
Okay.
So I'm going to make sure that everybody to the left of those lines has excellent sound. Now, that can present a challenge sometimes when promoters realize a show is selling really well and they say, oh, actually, I think we better sell these on the side of the stage too. Actually, I'll show you. I just, I knew this would happen. I knew that as we were talking, I would think of a picture and I would say, well, I should probably put that picture.
Yeah, that'd be a great picture to have. Yeah.
So let me see if I can find that picture that I'm thinking of. And I will show you what we might do in that scenario. Well, golly, I know I got it. Well, sure was in this folder. Everybody just talk amongst yourselves, man.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for being with us tonight while we're kind of going through the procedures for doing sound. We've got 75 people watching right now across the different channels, so that is awesome.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you for being with us tonight.
All right, so real quick, I'll pop this one up. And here you can see there is the main array going out to the arena. And then here in the upper right-hand corner, you can see a second smaller array, and that's what we call an outfill.
Okay.
So in this particular show, I had to fill all the way 180 degrees to the side of the stage. So we have the main array and then we have outfills also.
Excellent.
Well, let's see what else I got here just for fun. A few other things that you could find useful. This one maybe. This is a Dmx schedule. And it also shows again, a lighting plot, as it were, so that you can determine where the lights should go on the truss, and then what DMX addresses they should be. And then there's some color coding in here as well, which actually the lighting guy that's watching from our crew can remind me what that's for, but I think it was for, I think it might've been for power distribution. I don't remember.
So which ones are those, for those of us who used to use coffee cans for lights, which ones of those are, the throwback ones for us to feel good?
Anything that looks like a U shape would be like your coffee can-ish style.
The closest we're going to get, except they've got what, 1,000-watt bulb, or well, the equivalent of.
Yeah, I think that whole rig was LED actually. But a lot of moving stuff in there, and a lot of fixed instruments as well. Goodness, I'm not sure if I have any other fun pictures here, so we can just migrate to some questions.
So let's talk a little bit about staffing needs. Now, when you're obviously there's two different scenarios when you're on the road and when you're basically providing the gear. Let's go to where you're the one providing the gear, that you've been contracted to go and set up everything pretty much, so they could fly in. How many people does it take from your side to put something like that together?
Really depends on the show. It really depends on the size of the show. Sometimes it's only 2 or 3. That would be pretty thin. Usually it's 6 or 7. And then again, there's other local crew that our crew would be directing. loaders, riggers, forklift operators. So the skilled people are taking some unskilled people. I shouldn't say unskilled, but you know what I mean.
Knowledgeable or
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and in some cases, like the Christian tours, you might get you might get the youth group. I mean, I think it's fair to call them unskilled, enthusiastic, but they're certainly not going to walk back and operate the mixing board. Maybe they would like to someday. And again, that's what I love about working with them. I love that enthusiasm. But even your pro stagehands, they may see this gear all the time, but they've not seen your gear set up your way. So they need guidance is my point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they're not skilled, but you know what I mean? And the crews can really range in size. I've seen local crews as high as 100.
Wow.
110, actually, I think it was.
And that must be doing an event for 10,000 people? How large of an event would that be?
That was about 24,000.
Okay, so really a good size.
Yeah. And again, people are going to be divided into departments at that point, audio, video, rigging, stage, they're sort of divided up, and they've got people that are in charge of them, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I remember one, got to be careful what I say in this story. So, but I remember one tour where they kept firing my local crew. It was not a great management to work for. It was a very stressful situation, and they kept firing so I'd get somebody trained in, and then they'd come over and fire them. In fact, I got a little bit testy after a bit because I got kind of a system down where we got ahead a little bit. So we would be standing waiting for something to happen,
mm-hmm.
And to me, that was a sign that, of efficiency. But sure enough, one of the managers would come by and see my local person standing there doing nothing, saying, "You're fired." I'm like, I just trained them. Send me somebody else then, And finally I said, "No, don't take any more of my people.
Mm-hmm.
You want to show today or not?"
Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Enough is enough. Anyway, yeah, that's a 1 in a million story. I mean, most other times, I'll tell you another good story, and I won't say the names, even though I would love to give these guys credit because they're just absolute peaches of human beings, just great people. But one of these, and again, I'm back to the Christian tour. So sometimes those local crews get a little thin at the end of the night. Everybody's a volunteer,
Yeah.
They got to watch the show for free. Well, now, my son's got school tomorrow, or I got to work, and, they're just not there then. And 9 times out of 10, it's not that way. People honor their commitments, but once in a while, you're kind of like,
Yeah, it gets a little thin towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd everybody go? And there was one night I was on this tour, and we were all across the country. And I don't remember where, and it doesn't matter. I kind of do remember where, but it still doesn't matter. And there's nobody. There was literally nobody left at the end of the night. Nobody. So that was a problem because some of the cases were 400 or 500 pounds, and they had to be stacked. This venue, there was no forklift. We were, and again, and I think we had 10 show days in a row. So we had no days off, and 10, 16, 18-hour days in a row, we're already tired, Anyway, long and short of it, there's nobody. So the guys from the band, the musicians actually come back off the bus. They're on our bus, so they can't leave until we're done anyway. The lead singers and management, everything is on a different bus, and they're already gone. And that's okay. No big deal. They're on their bus and they're gone. They're not even aware of our situation. They are on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But the musicians and, some of the other, merchandise, and we had a sponsor on the tour too, like a, kind of like a feed the children thing or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, that guy who actually had paid to be on the tour, he's paying as a sponsor. Even he came off and helped us load.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, it was a rough night. Anyway, we got out in time, and our bus driver got us there in time. He's great, by the way. I love him. I just wish I could make entire shows out of stories about him, but I won't. He's great. He's fantastic. And I'll tell you what, that's something to think about though. When we get on the bus at night, we climb in our little bunks and we go to sleep because we get another work day tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happens throughout the night,
That's on
you're
him.
at the mercy of the guy in the front.
Yeah.
I remember one day we were getting off the bus and we came outside and we're like, I think we had a mirror when we left, didn't we? Because there's no mirror there now. Like, we're missing a mirror on this bus. So we're like, we should make a point to ask him about that. Now, the bus driver's at the hotel sleeping while we're working, but we know at night we're going to see him. So we asked him at night, we're like, hey, didn't you used to have a mirror? He's like, oh, yeah, we were going through the mountains down by Chattanooga, and a semi crossed the line and took off the mirror. We're like,
oh my.
By the way, my bunk was on that side. But, so anyway, point is, we love our bus drivers because, if they make a mistake, we could all be dead.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the loading story. So we get through it. He gets us there on time safely. The next day, another day. We're setting up, blah, blah, everything's fine. Sound check's great. It's just another day. And honestly, we completely forgot about it. It's just time to move on to the next thing.
Yep.
And I'm sitting at dinner, and usually the lead singers will sit with like the VIP guests and maybe, the local radio station people or local pastors.
Sure.
Again, it's a Christian tour, and they don't usually sit with us, and that has nothing to do. It's not like they wouldn't want to, but that's their job. Their job is to sit with those people.
Yeah.
Our job is to eat our food and get back out there and make stuff work,
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little uncommon that one of the lead singers came over and sat down next to me at the table, right across from me, actually. And he said, I heard you guys had a problem last night. I said, no, not really. No problem. He said, well, I heard you didn't have any help. And I said, well, it was a little thin, and he kind of cut me off, and he's like, I heard it was none. He wasn't ready for me to dance around it, and I said, well, yeah, that's true. And he said, well, that's not okay. He said, that's not all right. He said, I'm going to talk to management and we'll talk to that promoter and say, look, that's not okay. That's not part of your deal. That's not your job description, And he said, we'd have turned our bus around and come help you. And these guys are, they're not young men, and, they're young enough, but they're not young men,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, I can't let you do that, And he said, no, whatever. And I said, no, as long as I'm on this tour, you're not touching the gear. I said, I appreciate that. It means a lot, that they would say that they would make that offer, meant a tremendous deal. But that's another one in a million.
Yeah.
And they are one in a million.
Excellent. So the time it takes for you from the time, if you could calculate roughly how much time you have to put all this together, is this a 1 week project it takes you to put this together? Or is it you can throw it together in 2 or 3 days now that you've got it down? How does that work?
Well, it really depends. Every show is different. I certainly don't try to do things in a couple days because you don't have a lot of time if things go wrong. You don't have a lot of time to deal with unique requests, that sort of thing. So typically an advance is occurring about a month out. I even like to do advances a little bit longer because, again, time is your friend, generally it can get done in a matter of a couple hours, but depends on, if there's any super weird requests. After a while, you've built up enough equipment. Let's just say we're providing for a tour that basically we can say, well, yeah, okay, you need all that. That's fine. No problem. And, you just start, creating a loading manifest and say, okay, all this gear needs to go to this tour. This gear needs to go to this tour. No different than what DJs do week in and week out, really, when they have special events. Oh, this one needs a photo booth. This one doesn't, okay, same sort of deal, just, on a, whatever, different scale. But, and from a touring standpoint, it's even simpler. I think you say, this is what we need. And they say, well, you can't have it. And then you say, but this is what we need, and, at some point or another, you come to an agreement, what can we work around? How can we do this? That sort of thing. But it doesn't take long once you get good at it, or practiced at it. I don't know if I'm good at it, but practiced.
So how are you storing that stuff in the warehouse? Is it basically in there, the crates, and basically it's like, okay, we'll need these 4 crates and this crate, or is it one of these things that it's items are on shelves and then you're pulling as you need and you put that manifest of gear together?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm glad.
It's both. So there's entire trunks or carts that, are always stay the way they are and they go. And then there's other things that are assembled together. Again, space and weight are of paramount concern sometimes. So boxes are built for a show or a tour. This box goes to this tour and this box goes to this tour, whatever, but then there's boxes that are always packed the same way all the time. So it varies, And I think the takeaway here is how we do things, certainly is one way to do them, and it's not uncommon. It's, a lot of people do things that way, but I think what's key is that if you have a system that works for you, that's all that matters.
I think so. Excellent. I think we will wrap it with that, my friend. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for being with us tonight. We had a great crowd, people chatting back and forth in the chat room. Question from Mike here. Have you ever been on a tour in Woodstock, New York?
I've been on a tour. I've been on several tours through New York. Actually, one of my favorite tour memories is in New York. We actually had a day off and we went and played baseball. And it was just the guys from the band and us, and it was just, sunshine felt amazing after like 2 weeks in arenas and buses. I don't recall ever doing anything in Woodstock, and I feel like I would remember that, because there are things I do remember. Like, we were not doing a show in Muskogee. We were just going through Muskogee, and I made the bus driver pull over so I could go get a coffee mug that said, "I'm an Okie from Muskogee." Yes. So I feel like if I was in Woodstock, I would remember that.
You'd have gotten the mug.
I think so. I would have definitely done something.
Excellent. All right, sounds good. Again, thank you guys for being with us tonight. We'll be back here at the top of the hour. Jay and Brian, we're going to be talking a little bit about how far a person will go to help create those special moments at receptions. And the guys will dig into that and share some stories with that. Ben, thanks for putting all the information together for tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I want to send a thanks too, as we are thinking about tonight is the Red Alert restart night, and everybody's thinking about, our industry and the challenges it faces and how we're all adapting and doing different things. I want to send a sincere and heartfelt thank you to the customers. Many of you watch the show for sticking by us, and we're sticking by you. We know that there's a light at the end of this tunnel, red as it might be, but I just want to tell you how much your support means. We really, really appreciate it.
Excellent. And the industry has been very supportive out there. It's been good to see people sharing and being there and that shoulder when needed. So that's that large family that we have developed over the years.
A community, as you said at your show in February.
Yeah, that it is. So thank you guys for being with us. We will catch you in about 20 minutes. Good night, everybody.